Good morning, everybody. We have made it to Wednesday, and as I said last week, the Wednesday series that I've been doing all season is now over because college football, the regular season anyway, has wrapped. We did have conference championship games, but only a few teams played, and we're going to have bowl games, but at this point, a lot of these really good players are not even going to be playing in their bowl games. So the die has been cast when it comes to these college prospects. And last week on Wednesday, I did a couple videos about the guys who improved their stock the most at the quarterback, tight end, and interior offensive line positions. So now today we're going to be doing the same thing on the defensive side. We're going to be looking at defensive linemen, linebackers, by which I mean inside linebackers, and safeties. Those are the three positions that I think are relatively high priority for the Seahawks right now to consider in this upcoming draft. So, again, the focus of these videos is going to be the guys who improved their stock. Before the season, they were here, and now they're somewhere up here. I think that's a pretty simple concept, but understand there are a lot of other players worth discussing about this draft. So, this is just going to offer some perspective on guys who maybe you didn't know about before, but you should now. Before we get started, one thing I want to say real quick is when I go over their numbers, look at the bar at the close to the top of the screen. So like when I go like this, look up here at this bar that my mouse is on, because that way you can actually see the whole thing, because obviously these columns go off the screen to the right. So if you want to see the whole thing, you need to look at the bar at the top. I know it's imperfect, but I wasn't able to fit everything on screen. So, defensive line, let's start here. The big one to me, and I mean big in more ways than one, but this is to me the most important player who really stood out from the pack on the defensive line this year compared to expectations was T'Vondre Sweat of the Texas Longhorns. And he's not the only Longhorn on this list, actually, but T'Vondre Sweat had a breakout season, and it's not beyond the pale to suggest that he should be a first round pick at this point. I don't think he will be, but honestly, if Mazi Smith is, then T'Vondre Sweat probably should be as well. The only real knock I have on him is he didn't play that much. 462 snaps is not that many. Jerzan Newton played almost double that many snaps for the Illinois team. Other than that, everything here is pretty beautiful. He played 282 snaps against the pass and 180 against the run, so he has good experience with both. 42 tackles, and context needs to be understood here. T'Vondre Sweat is one of these 350-pound tackles. He is not somebody who is going to be making a lot of plays most of the time when you look at how big he is. So the fact that he had 42 tackles and he had 8 tackles for loss, which means he was consistently making plays in the backfield, is actually big. Like this guy, more often than not, when he's playing a game for the Texas Longhorns, makes some kind of big negative play in the backfield. So, 2 sacks, again, for a 350-pound guy, that's more than good enough. He batted 4 passes down, 28 quarterback pressures, so that's slightly more than 2 a game for a very, very large man. And PFF absolutely loves this guy. He ranks first among all interior defenders in overall grade, 91.8. His run defense grade, number 1, 92.1. His pass rush grade, 85.5, number 8 among all interior defenders in the NFL. I'm sorry, NCAA. So, T'Vondre Sweat, not only did he put up these numbers, not only is he a two-way player who can give you good snaps against the run and the pass, he anchors one of the best rush defenses in college football. In fact, I think it's number 1. So T'Vondre Sweat has a chance to be what we hoped Mazi Smith would be last year, because Mazi Smith so far has not been all that great for Dallas. Maybe T'Vondre Sweat can be that guy, because he is the guy this year who is the linchpin behind an elite run defense while also being useful on passing downs. This guy is special, and if he tests well, he may be a first round pick. He is one of my favorites in this draft. This is not a guy who was on very many people's radar before the season started. Second guy is Princely Umanmilien. I may be mispronouncing that last name. Sorry if I am, but he's a Florida player. Now, one thing about Princely and also these next two players we're going to talk about that I need to point out here, it's not entirely clear where they are going to play in the NFL. It's not entirely clear if they're going to lose a little bit of weight and become an edge or gain a little bit of weight and slide inside. Um, Princely, Landon Jackson, and Jordan Birch are all in that boat. They're all around like 260. If they dropped a little bit of weight, they would be an edge, but if they gain a little bit of weight, they're going to be playing inside. So it just depends on where they want to take their career from here. Obviously, if it depends on what we want to do on defense, but we would prefer that these players look to bulk up and look to play inside because that's where we need help. We don't need more edges right now, not really anyway. But that's just important for context. Let's take a look at Princely here for a Florida team that wasn't great for sure. He stood out. Played 566 snaps, equally split between run and pass. So plenty of experience against both. 39 tackles, 11 and a half for a loss. So a lot of stuff happening in the backfield. 7 sacks, 45 pressures, so nearly 4 a game. PFF grade is 76.3, which among edge players is not elite or anything, but it's good, 74th. His run defense grade, just shy of 70, which, again, not remarkable, but workable, 180th. His pass rush grade is actually where he stands out, 88.9, 11th best in the country. So, admittedly, Princely is a player who might just take his talents to the outside and become a full-time edge because he's shown such an ability to rush the passer. That's where the money is made. But he is a little bit on the bigger side for an edge player, especially in like a 3-4 defense. So if he ends up becoming a 3-tech or a 4-eye, wouldn't shock me. But yeah, he's somebody who wasn't really on anyone's radar before the season, maybe like a late day 3 pick. Now, he might slip in that top 100. Speaking of slipping into the top 100, we got Landon Jackson of the Arkansas Razorbacks. 450 snaps, almost evenly split between pass and run. By the way, the numbers don't add up to 100% of the total snaps because most of these guys do play like 1 or 2 coverage snaps, just randomly sprinkled in. 44 tackles, 13 and a half for loss, so a lot of stuff happening in the backfield for Landon Jackson. 6.5 sacks, 22 QB pressures. PFF grade was rock solid, 77.4, 62nd among all edge players, or, semi-edge players, I guess I should say. His run defense grade was really solid, almost 79, 94th in the country among edge defenders. Pass rush grade not so great, 68.3, still okay, 175th overall among edges. So Landon Jackson maybe more so a player who could slide inside because he's not as much of a threat to rush the quarterback. But I like overall what he brings to the table, and I think he might sneak into that round 3. Probably more realistically round 4, if we're being honest, though. Probably looking at like round 4. All right, so fourth guy is another, like I said, another guy who could go one way or the other with his career. We're a little more familiar with this guy because he was a Pac-12 guy. It's Jordan Birch of the University of Oregon. Breakout star for the Ducks. Played just over 400 snaps. If there's any knock against some of these guys, like I said, it's that they didn't play very much compared to some of the top guys. Like Jerzan Newton played almost 900 snaps or something. And Birch is obviously much more of an experienced pass defender than run defender because when you're on Oregon's defense, you deal with a lot more passing than running. 33 tackles, 7.5 for loss, had 3 sacks, 29 pressures. So we're talking about an average of a little more than 2 a game. PFF grade is 74.2, which is 110th among edges. Run defense grade is 76.7, which is 118th among edges. His pass rush grade is not very good at 63.3. It wasn't even really ranked. It would have been in the low 200s. But he was part of a very good defense at Oregon this year. And Birch, to me, is somebody who is starting to creep into that day 2 area. Maybe round 3. Definitely round 4 at this point, I think, though. Good against the run. Could slide inside. Could end up being like a Michael Bennett type. or a Tuli Tupuotu guy from the most recent draft if we want to go more recent. And I have my eye on him. And this final guy we're going to do is another Texas Longhorn. It's actually T'Vondre Sweat's buddy. And I really wanted to highlight him as well because he kind of came out of nowhere to now be a guy who is firmly in that round 4, round 5 area and could even creep up from there. He was a big part of Texas's defense being as good as it was. Played just under 400 snaps, mostly against the pass, but decent amount against the run. And he was another guy who, despite his size, despite being a bigger guy, was a presence against the pass. So, that should not be there. But with Murphy, 26 tackles, 8 for loss, 5 sacks, very disruptive actually for a 300-pounder, 40 QB pressures. So we're talking about 3 pressures a game approximately. He had the second highest PFF grade of any interior defensive lineman, second only to his teammate Sweat, 90.8. His run defense grade is good. It's not elite. 61st in the country among interior defenders, but still a 78, very workable. And his pass rush grade is elite. 91.6 is 5th among all interior defenders. So if you want to keep those two guys together and draft Sweat with one of your picks and then draft Murphy with another, you've got the foundation of a very solid interior. In fact, I might just be willing to sign myself up for that. Okay, so those are 5 guys on the defensive line who I think have done a great job expanding their abilities and increasing their draft stock. So let me know what you guys think down below. Later video, we'll cover a couple other positions.